Jake Madison, who we go to for our Pels updates all the time. Locked On Pels podcast is what you can get, lockedonpels.com, and he's got great insight on what's happening down there with the Pelicans, and he's joining us now here on Off the Bench. Good morning, man. How are you?
Good morning, you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's probably pretty crazy down in the city right now, huh? I mean, with the second half of the season getting ready to start on Mardi Gras weekend for you.
Look, usually we've had a game on Muses Thursday the past couple of years, so I'm kind of happy we don't have that, and they're actually doing a proper Mardi Gras road trip, so it's a little bit more tame and quiet than years past. But, yeah, it's a fun time of year here in New Orleans, that's for sure.
It is. So the Pelicans back tomorrow night. And the second half of this season, Jake, has really kind of been dubbed for the Pelicans an opportunity for them to make a run. What is the expectation for New Orleans as they get back in action tomorrow night and seemingly in full health?
Yeah, it's a team that's going to be competing till the very end of the regular season. They're 5.5 games out of the 8th spot in the West right now. There's 3 teams ahead of them just to get there in the Memphis Grizzlies, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Portland Trail Blazers. But the Pelicans are going to be in meaningful games because they have the easiest schedule remaining out of all of those teams. They actually have the easiest schedule remaining out of every team in the NBA. And when you look at maybe the final 12 games or so, there's a chance for them to realistically go 10-2 during that stretch. And if they just take care of business, I'm not going to guarantee playoffs, but they're going to be in this until the final game or two, which for the rookie season with Zion Williamson, Nicolò Alexander-Walker, and Jackson Hayes, a year where they had a 13-game losing streak. They were 6-22 at one point. Just to be in contention until the very end, I think is a very positive step forward for this team.
Jake, I don't know if you have any historical context. I want to say a couple weeks ago that I read that I don't know if a 5.5 game gap post All-Star break has ever been erased. Am I wrong there? Like, do you know kind of historically had the hill that the Pelicans have to climb, where that stacks up against teams of the past?
No, off the top of my head, I can't think of a team that kind of closed the gap that quickly. 5.5 games to make up over 27 games is a lot.
Yeah.
And if this was a full half of the season left to go, if they had 41 games, 40 games, I'd feel much more confident about their ability to get into the playoffs. And I think you could argue that between 8 and 13 in the Western Conference, the teams in those playoff seeds right now, the Pelicans are probably the best out of all of them, at least in playing the best basketball right now. They're just kind of running out of time due to the hole that they dug in to start the year, missing Zion Williamson, missing Derrick Favors for a number of games, that 13-game losing streak. They just kind of are running out of time to climb out from that. But they're peaking at the right time. They're playing very good basketball. The Memphis Grizzlies have the toughest schedule remaining, so that maybe knocks them out of contention. New Orleans has 2 games left against them, too, so that's a chance to pull 2 full games back in the standings in one night that way. And then a chance to get the tiebreaker over them. They already have the tiebreaker over the Portland Trail Blazers. They'll have a chance to get the tiebreaker over the San Antonio Spurs. That's going to be significant because that at least means you can tie with those teams, basically giving you an extra game to lose. You don't need to win an extra one to get ahead of them in the standings. You can be on the same level as them and still get in. And I think that could be really big as we kind of finish up this year.
Jake, if they are going to make this push, and I want to be clear to everybody listening, we've talked a lot of playoffs because, like, in the run up to this last push, that is one of these storylines, but it's not the end-all storyline, right? You just want to see what parts you can carry forward going to next year. But if they are going to make that run, they have to get better in the Smoothie King Center. What's been the problem with them winning at home this year?
Yeah, it's been a little bit interesting, and they've been significantly better recently. They've been playing 600 ball basically since January, and since Zion especially started to come back.
Okay.
So I think things are getting better there. Part of it was just the schedule, the early part of the year. No Brandon Ingram for some of those games. No Derrick Favors, and Favors is kind of the unsung hero of this team, in my opinion. So not having a guy like that in there, I think, kind of hurt them. I don't know if they're just bad at home and they're okay on the road. I think it was just they're finally healthy. They're starting to win some games. You've seen them get some very good wins at home, most recently over the Boston Celtics, which I think was a very big win for them. So I think they're improving there, but certainly the remainder of the season comes down to you have to take care of business. You particularly need to take care of business at home. They have 14 home games, 13 road games. You need to basically win 12 of the home games, 10 of the home games at the very minimum, if you want to have a chance to get into the playoffs.
Jake, I don't want to spend too much time on this one, maybe about like 30 seconds, but what is the current fan atmosphere like and support when it comes to the Pels in New Orleans?
I think it's been good. I've seen a lot of stuff out for Mardi Gras already. I expect to see a whole lot more. The crowds have been into the games. They know the stakes. They know what's going on, and I think that's maybe been the biggest difference, that the crowd is there, they are paying attention, and they are excited for basketball in the Smoothie King Center.
You mentioned Derrick Favors earlier, and like the team's net rating when he's on the court versus off the court is crazy. Same thing with Zion. A lot of people were questioning how those two would work together, right? Do you need more of a spacer? How have you felt that those two have been able to complement one another?
So Zion is such a special player and does such unbelievable things that we've almost never seen in the NBA. I don't think there's a bad player to put out there next to him. And if you look at the numbers, he actually does better and the team does better when he's paired next to Derrick Favors versus Nicolò Melli.
Wow.
Now, the numbers with Melli are still really, really, really good. They're just not at the astronomical levels of him and Favors. Favors is that anchor down low that can defend the basket, give you rim protection, something that Zion hasn't really given the team just yet, nor should he in his first 10 games. It's not a knock on him. So their defense is just so much better when he's out there, and that leads to fast break opportunities. That leads to that fast-paced Alvin Gentry style of play that they want. So putting Derrick Favors down low, letting him draw the bigger defensive assignment, I think has been a really good thing for Zion, just acclimating to the NBA and being able to do what he does offensively, because he's not having to spend that energy on defense and take as much of a beating down low. Favors kind of takes care of a lot of that. Zion also isn't the best defensive rebounder right now. His second jump in the offensive boards he gets are fantastic, but his defensive rebounding leaves a little bit to be desired. Derrick Favors doesn't leave anything to be desired there. That dude can just inhale rebounds. So it's nice to see him out there, and I think they complement each other pretty well.
Any idea what AllStar Weekend meant to Zion, or maybe what it could have done for him and being around superstars for the first time and kind of being one of the peers?
You know, it was really nice to see him kind of take center stage at one point during that, and for New Orleans to have a very big presence. But anytime you can get around these guys and pick their brains and learn from them a little bit, I think is incredibly valuable. I go back to the Olympic team that had Anthony Davis on it that won a gold medal before he ever played an NBA game. And he got to learn under guys like LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and some of the other greats and spend a summer training with them. There's a ton of value in that. Zion's not going to be on the Olympic roster this coming off season. So to get into the Rising Stars game, to be around all of these people at All-Star Weekend, I think, you know, if he's as much of kind of a film buff and a guy who wants to learn as much as possible, you know, he's asking questions from some of these guys to pick their brains a little bit. So I think that's just going to help his development, even if it's slightly. Maybe it also gives him a taste of what he wants to do with his career, seeing these guys take center stage, you know, what he wants to try and live up to, and that can be an incredibly motivating factor.
You know, it's interesting, though, because we talk about Zion and so much he has such a gravitational pull. Even in that All-Star Week question, we aren't talking about the Pelicans' actual All-Star and Brandon Ingram. Where's his health at? And what do you, we haven't seen in the last couple of games. What do you expect from him down the stretch?
Yeah, so he was on a minutes restriction during the All-Star game. They weren't going to play him a whole lot. He wants to just get healthy, and it sounds like he will be fully ready to go tomorrow against the Portland Trailblazers. They should have the whole team there. Portland may be without Damian Lillard, who's dealing with a groin injury, which is probably the significant injury development in that game. Going forward, though, I think you're going to see a tweak in the rotation. I look for Alvin Gentry to keep one of Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram on the court at all times. Those are your two guys, and things tend to fall apart when one isn't out there, and it's kind of a bunch of backups in there, so I think they want to try and avoid that. He's struggled at times to mesh with Zion a little bit. It's kind of impacted where he gets his shots from offensively. He's been a killer in the mid-range all year, and that's a very good shot for him, but the spacing hasn't quite been there with Zion back out on the court, so to spend these final 27 games for these two really figuring out how they coexist best, I think is really good going forward. These are your two studs for the next couple of years. Brandon Ingram is 22. Zion's 19. Ingram's going to get a max deal this offseason. You want to feel very confident in that investment. The Pelicans will, but but you want these guys to be able to really coexist to make you as scary of a basketball team as possible. So figuring out where he just needs to be on the court to kind of maximize Zion Williamson, I think, is going to be a big thing. Ingram can score from wherever. Zion can't, so he's likely the guy that needs to shift his play style just a little bit. I'd like to see a little bit more from him defensively. For a guy who's 6'7", 6'8", with a 7'2" wingspan, he doesn't block a lot of shots, doesn't kind of get his arms in the passing lanes and force turnovers and steals. He can improve in that area. And, again, he's 22. He shouldn't be a perfect NBA player right now. This is going to be a very scary team next season.
Jake Madison, Locked On Pels podcast. Remember, you can find him there on Twitter and here on Off the Bench, checking in, giving us Pels knowledge. New Orleans back in action tomorrow night, second half of the NBA season. Pelicans will be in Portland taking on maybe a Damian Lillard-less Portland Trailblazers.
Jake, plug the Twitch show as well before you go.
Yeah, of course. So I do a Twitch show for the actual Pelicans. It is their official Twitch show, twitch.com/PelicansNBA. We do it once every week, once every 2 weeks. We're usually courtside. It's live and interactive, so you can watch us talking. You can put your question in the Twitch chat. We will answer it there. We also get a little bit silly on there, play games with the audience. It's a lot of fun. It's called On the Fly, so go to twitch.com/PelicansNBA.
Enjoy the carnival. Happy Mardi Gras, Jake.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me on today.
You got
All right,
it.
take it easy,
There
bro.
he is, Jake Madison checking in. We'll close it out next.